Perfect. So thank you for taking time to chat with me. Really enjoyed the film. Like I
Oh,
was telling
thanks.
him, I saw it last night. And so it was a lot of fun. I ended up seeing it in 40X. So I hope
Oh,
you're
how is
not,
that?
it was really fun. I hope you're not like one of the filmmakers who's like precious about that.
No, I want to try it myself. It looks so much fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but I wanted to see it on like the biggest, loudest, most over the top screen possible. And why do you think that like that big theatrical experience is necessary for this movie?
I mean, we really designed this thing from the ground up to be a big crowd pleasing spectacle. That was part of my sort of pitch for getting the job in the first place is I really saw the potential of what this franchise could become and where we could go, and that we could move it out of the realm of being, smaller martial arts movies just for a core fan group and audience, and we could make a movie that the core fan group and audience still loves, still recognizes, still says, they did right by us. They took this seriously. They did a good job. But let's broaden it to the point where, if someone's significant other is getting dragged in off the street, I want that person to have just as good of a time as the person who's been loving this franchise for 34 years. So balancing those two acts really meant we had to deliver on spectacle. We had to have a lot of humor. We had to have big crowd pleasing moments. And so, yeah, I think, seeing this in a packed theater with the crowd screaming and yelling and laughing, really just elevates the entire experience. I'm sure it'll still be great when it comes out on streaming and everything else, but like, if you have a chance to see it in the theater, I think that's where it was really designed to be seen.
Yeah, for sure. And you've worked on a lot of franchises before, but with a few exceptions, you've generally been on the ground floor. Like you've been starting like a new vision of the
Sure.
franchise. For Mortal Kombat 2, you're joining this vision that was kind of already established. So what's the difference for you between working in these like two types of sandboxes?
Um, Honestly, this is the ideal situation, something like Mortal Kombat, because New Line had a treasure trove of data based off of that first movie. They really did their homework and they pinpointed, here's everything we did right. Here's everything the fans responded to positively about that first movie. They liked the gore, they liked the fight choreography, they liked the casting, that we had actual martial artists who could actually really do these moves versus kind of getting just a bunch of random actors and then having digi doubles bouncing around. So they could really pinpoint, like, here are the areas where we did a great job, and let's double down on all those areas. But they could also say, here's the areas where the fan base was telling us this wasn't what we wanted, or this is not something that we were necessarily excited about, or things that changed the overall lore and mythology in ways that the fans just kind of balked at. And so anytime you're sort of faced with a sequel like that, the question is, like, do you double down on those things that aren't working, or do you try to course correct and pivot and give the fans what they actually want? And so that was our approach from the beginning, of like, let's be really receptive. The fans are telling us what movie they want to see. Let's deliver that. Let's put them in the driver's seat and give them the movie they've been dreaming about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really interested as a writer working on a project like this that's built around these fight scenes. How involved are you in writing the action? Is it like X character does this move, or is it just like these guys fight and then the specifics are worked out by the stunt team, or some combination of both?
That's a fantastic question. The honest response is that it sort of takes a village. It is. I certainly can't take credit for all of it, because we have a lot of really smart, really talented people. But the way the process sort of works is, you could never transcribe a fight on the page, because it would be 7 pages of, like, he blocks, she kicks, she picks, she jumps, he ducks. Like, your eyes would glaze over so fast. So I'm probably writing about 3 pages worth of gags and just describing the fight on the page. Where my job is to kind of map out, here's the tempo of the fight. Here's this person is the aggressor. This person might be on defense. Here's any dialogue that's said throughout the fight. Here's the big emotional turns, where this is where a character realizes something, or this is when the character realizes, oh, I'm in trouble here. And then I try to write out a series of gags where, like, here's something cool. Katana does something cool with her fan in this moment. She throws it and kicks it into the wall, and then she's going to use that to like vault up onto the roof, and then she's going to kick Johnny. Like I will add in, probably a dozen or so gags for every fight. Here's what Kung Lao is doing with his hat. Here's what Ludi's doing with his fireballs. Um, because my job is to sort of sell my vision for the fight to the producers, the studio, the fight choreography team, the director. And then what the next step in the process is once all of those people have sort of signed off on the fight and they're like, okay, I can visualize that. That sounds cool. At that point, we hand it off to the stunt team, and their process is awesome. They'll like build entire sets out of cardboard boxes, and they'll wrap tin foil, like aluminum foil, around their arms to like play jacks, and they'll sort of dress up in homemade characters, and they sort of act out what I have on the page, and they add their own ideas to it. And they'll come back and they'll be like, here's what Jeremy had. Here's some stuff we added. And then it's really Simon's job as the director to go through that sort of early previs and pinpoint the stuff that they're doing that he really likes, and the stuff that isn't sort of connecting, and says, well, in that version, how about we combine these two moments, or how about we push this even further? So then Simon's the one who sort of gives that feedback based off of what the stunt team has come up, and he kind of takes all those disparate sources and combines them into the fight that he wants to direct and wants to see. So it really kind of goes through three different stages, and I think the fights get better at each single stage. And I'm always happy to take credit for all the amazing ideas that they're coming up with. And if someone comes up and they're like, "Oh, I love that teleportation gag they did there," I'm like, "Oh, thanks, man, that's great." But I didn't write that. That was a brilliant stunt team and fight choreographers somewhere in Australia. Those guys kick so much ass and make our guys look so good. They are the true unsung superstars of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I think these action sequences are fantastic, both as a fan of the franchise and just as a fan of action movies.
Thank you.
But I think,
I'm a fan of them too.
yeah, I think one of my favorite lines in the movie, and I'm going to paraphrase this, but it was like, people want to see Keanu Reeves kill guys with a pencil, not karate moves.
Yeah.
So I want to know, like, do you agree with this or do you disagree with this? And what do you think is the future of the action genre?
Um, I want to be very clear that I love the John Wick movies, so that is no shade to John Wick at all. I had a
Yeah.
blast with all four of them. But yeah, I do think the current trend in action movies of everything has to be hyper grounded. Everything just has to be, Bob Odenkirk beating up people in his garage is a little bit of a bummer, because I am a child of the 90s. I grew up in sort of what I would say is sort of the heyday for big, fun summer blockbusters, where it's just every year it was like Jurassic Park, Independence Day, Speed, The Matrix, Fellowship of the Ring, like just blockbuster after blockbuster that I would just walk out of the theater buzzing and say, oh my God, have you guys seen The Rock yet? That was the fucking greatest movie I've ever seen. And I feel like we don't get a lot of those movies in Hollywood anymore. We get a lot more of the grounded, low budget action movie versus the big fun spectacle movies. And so that was a big part of why I wanted to take this job and what my vision for what this franchise could be. I think this could be our Fast and the Furious, where every couple of years we get to do another installment, and who else is giving you this kind of money to make an R-rated martial arts fantasy movie? Like, that's just a genre Hollywood would not touch with a 10-foot pole, except we have this great IP that justifies bringing it to life. And so I really feel like this is a throwback to the sort of movies we just don't get anymore. And that's part of the whole appeal for me is I think there is still an appetite for movies like this. I think it's a great time at the cinema, and the crowds seem to really be loving it. And it would be great if Hollywood listened and said, oh my God, there's an appetite for this. We should make more movies like this.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a theater that's not the most well populated in Austin, and it was pretty full last night. And there was some applause moments for sure. So I
Nice.
think the crowd definitely ate it up.
I'll
But I
take
think
it.
with a franchise as beloved as this, there are obviously a lot of expectations for the fan favorite characters, but then there are also a lot of those niche characters that come in with like fewer preconceived notions. So did you find it easier to write for those characters that the fans have high expectations for, or the ones that were more of a blank slate?
You know, honestly, every character is someone's favorite character. Like that's sort of the thing you realize once you start doing your homework is that you kind of have to treat everyone like they are the star of the movie in their own respective scenes. Because, you know, maybe 10 people don't care about Quan Chi, but then you get to number 11 and he's like, oh, Quan Chi's my favorite character of all time. I've been playing as him exclusively for 20 years. My bedroom is a shrine to Quan Chi. It's just like you never know. There's always going to be someone where no character is too minor to be really, really important to someone out there. So we knew just from the realities of making an ensemble movie with like 20 characters, that between how vast our bench is and how much time we knew we were going to have to spend on Johnny and Katana to sort of land their respective arcs, we knew that we weren't going to be able to give everyone their moment in the sun, that not everyone was going to get a full character arc. But we did try to give everyone satisfying moments where like at least that guy got a cool fight before he went out, or at least this guy gets some funny lines, or Quan Chi has a cool moment. You try to give everybody a chance to shine because you know that you can't treat anyone as disposable in a series like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to talk about Johnny. I think Carl Urban brings so much of his personality to that role, while it also feels like the Johnny Cage that like I grew up in the video games. But there are definitely some moments that feel like you were writing for Carl Urban as Johnny Cage. There's one in specific that I don't want to spoil. But how did you find this balance of, writing for him and his personality versus like this character that everybody loves?
Yeah, with Johnny, I knew we were going to have to make just a general recalibration with the character because for that exact reason we were just talking about with John Wick, the idea that this guy could be a martial arts star and also the biggest movie star in the world just didn't feel right. It's like people literally aren't making those movies anymore. The Johnny character is kind of famously based off Jean-Claude Van Damme, who at the time was the biggest movie star in the world for doing splits. And it was kind of like that's a dying breed that doesn't really exist anymore. So the idea of trying to set up this guy and have him be the biggest movie star in the world, I'm like, well, does that character have any wants or dreams or desire? Like, if you're Ryan Gosling or you're Timothy Chalamet and you're like the biggest star in Hollywood, like there's nowhere to go. You're already at the top of that pyramid. You've already won. So finding an arc for a character like that seems difficult versus uh, my whole idea was like, well, if Johnny was that guy who had a chance to be Ryan Gosling, if he had a chance to be the biggest star in the world and it sort of slipped through his fingers, and his dreams never quite got there, then that suddenly becomes much more relatable. That's a character I can sympathize with, I can understand, and you can really take that character on a journey from point A to point B. So that was sort of the impetus for starting Johnny where we did. In terms of Carl specifically, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think he's fantastic in the role. I think it's been so much fun watching the fans really embrace this version of Johnny and his portrayal and how much he's bringing to it. And honestly, I think I know the joke you're referring to,
Yeah.
and I can't take credit for that. That was a Carl ad lib, man. Like I don't think I would have had the balls to write a Lord of the Rings joke for him to deliver. But Carl and Josh Lawson, who plays Kano, had such great chemistry, and they're both so good at improv that those guys would, they would nail whatever joke you wrote for them, but then they would also throw in two or three jokes of their own that were frequently better than mine. So when I saw that Lord of the Rings joke come through in dailies, I was like, well, that's in the fucking movie. That's incredible. Yeah. So all credit goes to Carl on that one.
Yeah, no, that was a great joke, but I love the way you wrote the character. I thought it was a really, really well done way of doing that.
Oh, thanks.
But did you have like a favorite character to write for in this one?
Kano was my favorite character to write for. Part of before I agreed to take the job for part two, I was like, just so you guys know, you cannot stop me from bringing Kano back to life. He was my favorite thing from the first movie, by a country mile. I was like, this is the dude who understands the assignment, and honestly, he got the tone, and him adding sort of a sense of humor to the movie was the justification I used for pushing the movie in a more crowd pleasing direction. I was like, look at how Kano was everyone's favorite part of that first movie. It's because he was tongue in cheek, he was really funny, and he gave the audience permission to laugh, which is really, really important in a movie like this. Is letting people know it's okay to have fun with this. It's okay for this to just be, a great popcorn time at the movies. So Kano is the sort of character where I could write a dozen jokes for him in every scene and know that Josh was just going to kill every single one of them. So he was the most fun to write. Baraka was the character I was most excited to introduce just because I was a Baraka main when I was 15. I was a horror kid, so you introduce a guy with sort of a cross between Freddy Krueger and Wolverine, and I'm like, you are speaking my language. So I loved Baraka and really wanted the audience to fall in love with him too. So I was really, really excited to get a chance to sort of bring my favorite character to life.
Yeah, and that was such a fun scene too. So it definitely shows that you had the
CJ's
passion
the
for that.
best. He's so good in that
Yeah.
role.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a huge year for you. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that Coyote versus Acme is finally
Yeah.
coming out. So how does it feel having all of these like big projects come to fruition at once?
It feels wonderful. It really does. Especially with Mortal Kombat, because this movie's been done for a while. It's been on the shelf, and we have really been waiting for, we've been waiting for screens to open up so that we could actually, get this on. This is a movie that was designed for IMAX, and we wanted it on those IMAX screens, but we had to find a window where it works. And originally, we were supposed to come out in October of last year, which did not feel, this didn't feel like a Halloween movie to me. This felt like a big summer blockbuster. So when it got pushed back 7 months, to this May date, I know it was tough for all the fans. It was tough for us behind the scenes. Like, we all knew we were sitting on something special, and we were really proud and really excited to share it with the fans and share it with the world. So waiting an extra 7 months was tough. But I think it was the right move creatively. I think it's going to allow the movie to be more successful and give us a chance to make a Mortal Kombat 3 and hopefully 4 and 5 and however many spin-offs and sequels we can get away with. So yeah, it's felt like we have had a really good Christmas present sitting inside a wrapped package underneath the tree for like 2 years at this point, and now the fans are finally getting to open that present, and they're enjoying it in exactly the way that we all hoped they would. So it's a huge sense of relief to have finally gotten to this point and to kind of realize, oh, we pulled it off. The fans are happy. They're enjoying it as much as we hoped they would. Thank God. And same with Coyote versus Acme. I don't take a lot of credit for that because I just wrote the first draft 10 years ago, and Sammy Birch is really the writer who kind of
Mhm.
came in and rewrote that script and made it awesome. Um, but my heart really broke for those guys when that movie got shelved, and I think it was really tough and a really tragic outcome. So the fact that everyone who worked on that movie and kind of gave devoted a portion of their life to bringing this to the screen, the fact that they can go and now show their families and their children, like, this is what mom and dad were working on, this is what we did. I'm so happy they're going to get their day in the sun, and that fans are going to get a chance to see what they made. And I think it's going to be a really special movie. And I'm just rooting for those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for your time. Really enjoyed the movie. I can't wait to see the third one
Awesome.
when it
Me
comes
too.
out.